Hey everyone, Juicy Absolute here again. Happy weekend. I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm coming into this video in hopes to inform you of the logical reasoning as to why I adore video games as much as I do, and hopefully I can give you and your family a background as to why I think video games are great for physical and mental health. And it's not only because they are fun or entertaining, it's not only because they pass the time, it's not only because they're used as a distraction, maybe all three, but there are some things that I may see in video games that a lot of people may not. Given that video games are seen highly as a distraction technique to get you to procrastinate more, or as parents would say. I don't necessarily believe this to be 100% true, or it can possibly be seen as a gateway to another world, or in other words, a mild distraction from reality. I don't actually see the latter as a bad thing, even though it's perceived by many adults as one, and I'll explain that later on. The way I see it is that all games tend to create a unique storyline or a plotline of some sort, and then the story develops over hours of gameplay and eventually comes to an end. And of course, when the story is done, generally you would move on to a new game, or in some cases, some games have a new game plus mode, which adds levels of difficulty, as well as new developments in the storyline. Now, let's take for example, a story about a little girl, and while exploring her new home, she discovers a secret door behind which lies an alternate world that closely mirrors her own, but in many ways is better. She rejoices in her discovery until the characters in that universe try to keep her there forever. She must use all her resources and bravery to make it back to her own family and life. Let's take one more for example. This story takes place in the year 2033, 20 years after a fungal-based, brain-altering pandemic has spread and infected over 60% of the world's population. Since the outbreak, the world has gone into a state of panic and frenzy as officials try to fix and keep the situation under control. When the World Health Organization's attempts to procure a vaccine fail, the United States government does away with the bureaucrats in power and the establishment of civilian government. The country is turned into a police state under the control of Homeland Security and the military, and cities across the nation are placed under martial law one by one. Survivors of the pandemic are assigned to designated quarantine zones that are supposed to separate them from the infected and keep them safe. Did you realize what those stories were? One was of a book and one was of a video game. Can you guess which one is which? Well, the first one was actually Coraline, a 2002 novel by Neil Gaiman, and the second story was The Last of Us, a video game developed by Naughty Dog. The more that I thought about the similarities between books and video games, the more it spoke to me that I just love to read, and even though I do read books from time to time, I am a much more visual learner, so I like to see my story unfold in front of me instead of imagining it. Aside from that, games have enhanced my reaction time to both physical and mental stimulation. It's firstly helped me to process and analyze decisions faster. And when you're playing a game, observation and analysis are the key to beating the game to its full potential. Let's take an example in a video game of a reward or item hiding behind a wall or a tree or a building of some sort. This requires keen observation of your surroundings to be able to point that out, and the more you play games, the more you expect developers to do things like this. So when you stop playing games for the night, the observations and analyzations continue on throughout your day, causing you to be more aware and reactive of your surroundings in reality. And you can make the case that that sort of awareness can develop into becoming more adaptive in conversation and changing your thoughts on the fly, as games get you adapted to doing so. As an avid gamer, I tend to do everything that a game has to offer, so in other words, I will fully complete a game before moving on to the next one. Currently, I have 42 full completed games dated back from 2017, and we're still going strong, baby. Going for our 43rd in Crash Bandicoot 4 at the moment. Completing games in this manner is as satisfying to me as finishing a good book and concluding that the ending is always a good ending, and never a bad ending. The persistency to always hit that level of completion is not easy, but I do it as a form of growth in knowing that it helps to build my work ethic, my diligence, my confidence, my drive, and most importantly, my consistency. All of these aspects have helped and assisted in guiding me throughout my life, and reminds me that I can accomplish literally anything if I put my mind to it. That's right, I've pushed through games that I haven't wanted to continue to play for the sake of growth and continuation of consistency. To me, The qualities that I value in games are the qualities that I carry throughout my day job, my relationships, my speech, etc. The consistency helps me to grow experience in whatever I plan to do. It's a recipe that all relates back to gaming, and gaming is a recipe that all relates back to reality. Another reason that I play games all the time relates back to a very common matter in life: making mistakes. As I always relate the real world in games, they help to manage my ability of perfectionism, as they place you in a controlled environment and you have the ability to make as many mistakes as you want without any repercussions. Nobody is relying on you to complete a task, and nobody's telling you how fast you have to play through the game. It's under your control. Let me repeat that. It's under your control. Mistakes under your own control therefore teach you that you need to hold yourself accountable for your own mistakes. I take this one to heart. It's held me reliable to blame myself when it's my fault and to fix the problem and create a short-term solution. Managing my perfectionism in games has therefore led me to the belief that if I hold myself accountable for my mistakes and learn from it over and over again, my mistakes in reality just aren't a big deal anymore. And that's the truth. Relating back to the beginning of this video, I stated that games are a gateway to another world. This gateway can create a sense of imagination that most adults tend to lack, but I can't help but stick to that thought. They say that you should hold on to your inner child because adulting is enough to handle on its own. As for kids, some parents think it's a mere distraction, but I advise parents to watch this. I think that the issue with playing games as a kid under supervision is the imbalance that video games can bring to the table. Some kids may not know when to stop, and some could really just be using it to escape life because they may not like it so much. And some adults too. This is not the group that I'm talking about. I'm calling out to the individuals that see games as more than just a mere distraction. I'm calling out to people who play games to build intellect, to build friendships over the internet via gaming, and to the ones that make mistakes in games so that in reality you realize that mistakes are never a bad thing, but yet a good thing. I'm calling out to you, the visual readers of this world. Games are slowly becoming more popular, and this is just the beginning of an era, and I can't wait to see what's to come. Thanks for watching today. We shall unite again, and as always, stay juicy, stay positive, stay happy, stay humble. We'll catch you next time.